So first of all, can you tell me about your experiences as an English teacher in this school? How long have you been working here?
I've been working in this school since October 2016, so about 5 months.
5 months. So what classes do you teach?
I teach all the P3 and P4 speaking classes, so that's four classes per year group.
Okay. How long have you been a teacher of English?
I first started teaching English in 2005. I've been doing it on and off since then, so most of the last 12 years.
2005, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so where were you working? Also in a primary school?
I've worked in primary school, secondary school, kindergarten, private tutoring, private language centers, all
Wow.
kinds of teaching in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot. So how do you usually plan for lessons?
Can you be more specific with the question?
Like, how do you prepare for the teaching materials, the teaching strategies?
Well, it varies depending on the class. With the P3s, they follow quite a strict curriculum in the PRW. So I basically follow the guidebook for lesson planning. And P4s, they are also following a curriculum, but have a bit more freedom to tailor it to each class. So I will base it on the textbook they're currently studying and adapt it more to a speaking lesson.
Can you describe the tutoring received by the students in the classes that you teach? Do you know anything about the students having tutoring?
From myself?
Yeah.
Again, could you be a bit more specific? What would you like to know?
Like, do you know which students have tutoring and who do not?
You mean extracurricular tutoring?
Yeah.
Outside of the class?
Yeah.
I'm unaware of which students do.
And do you know the percentage?
I don't know. No.
Okay.
No.
Can you guess?
I have no idea, actually. Nobody's ever told me, so I don't know.
So actually about half of the students, like here, more than half actually.
Mm-hmm.
Half for 3A, more than half. No, less than half for 3B.
Yeah.
Well, about half of the students.
On average.
Yeah, go to tutoring centers.
Right.
So are you surprised? So many students are there.
It doesn't surprise me, actually. I know from teaching in private centers previously that it's quite normal for Hong Kong kids to finish school and then go straight to a tuition center. So is it still recording?
Okay.
And then, I know it's quite normal. In fact, I might even expect it to be higher than 50% sometimes, depending on the age of the students. Yeah.
On the age?
Yeah. I know that from primary school to secondary school, they do definitely do it as a norm, really. I think most students seem to have some after school activity. So yeah.
So why do you think the tutoring phenomenon exists?
That's a very there's a lot of answers to that, I think. In Hong Kong, certainly it's more of a phenomenon than in other countries, certainly more so than in England, where I come from. I think there's no easy answer to why it exists. Education is very much a priority in Hong Kong. I think you have to really ask the parents sometimes why that is, but I suspect often it's also because of the lifestyle of the parents. Most families here, both parents will work. The hours of work are very late. Many people will work until 6 or 7 o'clock. It's quite normal in the evening. So if the children finish school at 3:15, 4 o'clock, then that's a lot of time between between leaving school and seeing their parents. So I think it's actually a convenience for a lot of families to send their kids to as many tutorial classes as possible. But that's not the only reason. I think that's an extra advantage of it. But it's a lot of competition. If your child isn't receiving the same level of tutorship as his or her peers, it will be seen as them not having the same chances, and I think there's a lot of competition, not just between the students, but actually in the eyes of the parents. They don't want to be seen as neglecting their duty to send their kids to them. It's a very deep subject. You can say there are many answers.
So how about the advertisements? Do you think they also have some influence?
I think they do. I think advertisers are smart, and a lot of the companies I've worked for and a lot of the companies I see, they use advertising to their advantage. Like with all products, they've perfected the technique of making people feel they need a product whether they do or not. And there are a lot of bold claims in the advertising I see. One company claims you will learn how to read in 1 year. These kind of things. Obviously, if you work in education, you know it's not that easy. But the parents will see that, and they will be. It's easy to believe that it's necessary to do that. Yeah.
So there are lots of types of tutoring, like one-on-one, small groups, big groups, even lecture size of classes, and also some video recording classes. So what do you think of the different types of tutoring?
Well, I've experienced teaching one-on-one, and I have experienced teaching groups. Personally, I think the students actually get the most out of one-on-one tuition or very small groups, 2 to 3. Usually it's very hard for a teacher to control a larger class in an out-of-school setting where there aren't so many school rules and things that the students will follow. And I've heard about the video tuition. I've met in my previous school, at secondary school, some of the students there were going to tutor classes where these tutors are very famous and actually the star tutors, and I was surprised to find that most of the time they don't actually meet the tutor. They are video tutored in a separate class, and I feel that's I wonder if there's any real benefit to that, and I think I find that quite a suspicious business practice. If you're advertising yourself as a tutor, but actually you're not in the room when you're teaching people, that's yeah.
So are you suggesting that the smaller size it is, the more effective it is?
Yeah, because I think in that setting, the more attention the tutor can give to the student, the more likely there will be good results. But if the tutor has too many in the class, they cannot actually concentrate on the needs of each student individually. All students are at a different level, so it's very hard to get a perfectly matched group of students in that setting. So certainly from a teaching perspective, I've always got better results in the private tutoring from very small or individual classes. Yeah.
Sorry, can you maybe be louder?
Yeah, sorry.
And can you describe your feelings towards tutoring? Do you support it? How do you feel about tutoring?
I think it is a good thing if used wisely, like many things. Small amount is good, but I think that the state in Hong Kong where it has become expected that you need to do it, and that it's relied on, whereas actually that's the responsibility of the schools, is to provide the adequate education. And I think some extra education outside of the school is a good thing, but it should not be seen as the norm that everybody has to do it, because actually it's expensive for many people. Some people don't have the time to do it, and actually the kids are given too much to do, in fact, that I think they're less focused, because every day is so full. They don't have time to have some downtime to themselves and just enjoy playing and some hobbies where they give their brains a chance to recuperate every day. So I think it's been a good thing that's been taken a little bit too far in Hong Kong, and it would be a good thing to maybe relax it a bit and not pressure the students too much.
Can you maybe compare the students with and without tutoring? Do you think there are any differences?
It's hard for me to compare it, because I'm not always sure which students are having tutoring and which are not.
For example, Elvis has tutoring.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's a very smart and quite confident kid. His English level certainly is very high. So if that is probably helped by having some out-of-school tutoring. But I don't know if I can say that proves that the tutoring is an advantage, because there will be many other students who go to those private tutor lessons who sit in silence and don't have the confidence even after that. It really depends on the individual child, really.
On their motivation?
I think if the kid feels comfortable and confident and happy learning whatever subject it is, then they're more likely to succeed. But actually, the downside of too much in their schedule is that they can feel too much pressure, and then their confidence will actually go down from that. I think, again, if the students can find one or two things that they enjoy or that they want to get better at, and just keep their focus on those things, they will get much more confident in those subjects, and that will spread to other things. But if they overload, or rather their parents overload their schedule with tutoring in every subject all the time, they will not see much progress, and that will affect their confidence, and all around they will suffer from that, I think.
What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of tutoring?
Well, I think I've probably talked about that already. The advantages, obviously, are that you can have some focused time on a particular subject. In a classroom in school, obviously the teacher has to spread the attention between 20 or 30 students, but if a student shows some talent or drive in a particular subject, and they get to have a one-on-one lesson or a very small group where they can really interact more with the teacher, then that's obviously an advantage. But the disadvantage, of course, is if you fill the student schedule with only learning, only education, only revising, and then they don't get much balance in their life, and as a result, actually everything suffers, because they're exhausted and their confidence suffers. So.
Do you think tutoring has any influence on the discipline? Like, for example, those who go to tutoring centers may fall asleep during the lesson because they think they have mastered everything.
Yeah, that can happen, I suppose. I certainly think if a student is already low in discipline, then they will not get any higher by going to tutorial classes. And yes, it could negatively affect them if they're too busy, they're too tired, or they get so far ahead that they feel that the school class is not up to their ability anymore. Then I suppose that can affect discipline. Yeah, I feel like usually the students will learn more about discipline in the school setting though. Than they would in a tutorial class where it's usually a bit more casual, the environment.
So have parents ever consulted you about tutoring?
Not as a school teacher, no, parents have not, in my experience, talked to me about tutoring. Obviously when I was doing private tutoring, working for tutorial centres, I will sometimes interact with the parents and they will ask about the students' progress in the school actually, and so the other way around. But yeah, it's not something I've ever been asked whether I need to suggest that students should have tutoring or not. I've not been consulted on that way. Yeah.
How long did you work as a tutor?
It's hard to give an exact figure. It's been just something I've done occasionally in that 12-year period of working, sometimes in Hong Kong, and I've done it for periods of a few months, sometimes at a time. I guess if you totaled it up, it would probably be more than a couple of years worth of tutoring. Most of my teaching has been in schools and kindergartens, but yeah, I've done quite a lot of it. Yeah.
So you worked as a tutor in a tutoring center?
Yeah, it's a few different ones, and also private lessons. Where usually for private lessons I would, when I've done it in the past, I would go to the student's home and we'll have the lesson there. Occasionally they would meet somewhere else, like the parents of two kids will arrange to meet in a cafe and we go there together, but usually in the student's home in that case.
Did you ever, on your own initiative, to advise parents to seek tutoring?
No.
So how does tutoring affect you as an English teacher? Does it affect you in any ways?
I'm not really aware of how it affects me, if it does. I think, as you know, you can name some students that receive tutoring, and then I would probably recognize that those are the students who do seem to have an advantage or are a bit more involved in the lessons, and those are certainly easier students to teach in many ways, and so it does have advantages, but yeah, it's hard to say how it affects me unless I could experience teaching all students with no tutoring. I wouldn't really know the difference. Yeah.
So how about your content, activities, or teaching pace? Do you think it's influenced?
I don't think it has an effect on that. As I say, certainly in this particular school, in this job, I'm really following what the students are learning in their other lessons and the curriculum that's set for them. So there's not much chance for it to affect that, really.
So how about your own commitment, professionalism, involvement, your identity?
What about it?
Are they influenced?
I don't see how, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you pursue your goals as a teacher under the influence of tutoring? So nothing's changed, right?
No, I think it really is something that in my current status, it doesn't really affect me one way or another, because when the students come to school, they're going to learn what we have prepared for them, and I don't really have much input from the outside influences there.
Okay. So what do you think of the advertisements or the image of tutoring centers?
I think it's gone a bit too far, to be honest. Since first coming to Hong Kong 12 years ago, I've noticed it steadily increasing. And
about when?
well, it's interesting to say that, because I left Hong Kong in 2009, and I was away for roughly 5 years and came back in 2014, and I definitely noticed a huge increase in the amount of advertising, especially of the star tutors, celebrity tutors on the back of buses and billboards. I think every shopping centre I go to now, on one floor or another, there'll be a tutorial centre with big names and pictures of the tutors outside. It's obviously a big industry. People are making a lot of money from it. Whether they have the needs of the student as their first priority, or the desire to make money as their first priority, is debatable. It's obviously a big money industry, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it needs to be as prevalent as it is. I think the students themselves would probably be very happy to have some more free time to themselves and a bit more time to develop their own personalities before they go on to secondary school and then into life, where the ability to pass a test or fulfill the requirements of a curriculum only go so far into actually giving you a successful life. And I worry that the children that grow up to be adults in the current environment are lacking, because they don't have that time as children just to have fun and become themselves, because it seems now there's a non-stop rush now until they leave school, and then when they leave school they're all in the same position, and it doesn't matter if you've got perfect straight A's if everybody else has, and you haven't yet found what it is you want to do with your life and what you love about I think it probably will go more extreme, but I hope that there will be a change in the future, and people will maybe calm it down a bit and go back to giving students a bit more of their own time. Yeah.
Why do you think it will be becoming more extreme or down?
Because I think the competition, the competitiveness, it doesn't show any signs of slowing. I think now parents are much more interconnected through social media and through the ability to see how others are doing, and so everybody will share their achievements or their children's achievements, and everybody will look to each other, and everybody wants to be better than everybody else, or they want their kids to be better than everybody else. And there's a lot of pressure for that in all walks of life at the moment. And until that changes and people realize that it's not the most important thing, there are other things in life, then I think it will just continue to grow. And obviously, while people are making a lot of money from it, and it's still a viable way for tutors to make money and tutorial centers, then that probably isn't going to go away very soon.
So what do you think that tutoring centers have but schools don't have?
Just really the time to if they do focus on the individual students, then that's something no school really has the ability to do. All schools have stretched resources, and especially in Hong Kong, there are a lot of people, and the teachers can only spend so much time with each student. It's only fair to give everybody an equal chance. But of course, in a tutorial center, the student or their parents is paying for the time, so that for that hour, that tutor can really concentrate on one student, and that's something. It's very hard to match that in a classroom environment.
If students take some exercises from the tutoring centers to consult you, would you be willing to answer the questions?
I think I would be willing to offer them guidance, not answer their questions for them. I do have students ask me to tell them the answer to their homework, but as teachers, we are supposed to teach the students how to teach themselves. So I would not be averse to offering guidance, but I think if it starts interfering with what they're learning in the school, then the schoolwork should always take a priority, really.
So what do you think about the notes provided by the tutoring centers? I'm not privy to them because I'm not a parent, and so I don't have any experience of being given notes by tutors and tutorial centers. Yeah. So you prepared everything by yourself when you were a tutor?
When I was a tutor, actually, it depends on the center. Sometimes I would have to prepare myself. Other places they have quite a set curriculum, and we just follow that.
Okay. As a English teacher, do you see tutors as a competitor, or tutoring centers? Do you see them as a competitor?
Not really. Certainly, I'm not worried for my job security, because no matter how many tutorial centers spring up, I don't think anybody will be closing schools because of them. In fact, to be honest, they have offered me much wider employment prospects in Hong Kong than at home, because there are so many of them that if I need to ever find a job as an English tutor, it's very easy in Hong Kong. But I suppose in one way you could see them as competition if what they're teaching varies from what you are teaching in the school, and that can happen sometimes. You get a student come up to you and say, "Oh, you told me this word is pronounced like this, but my private tutor told me it was pronounced like this," and there can be some conflicts like that, but nothing serious in this subject.
That ever happened, that situation, the different pronunciation or different ways of teaching? Only very, very minor things like differences in pronunciation, and actually that's
with the English language, that's a good opportunity to teach the students that there are many different ways of pronouncing many words in English, and there is no set correct way of speaking English. It's an international language with a lot of variations, so it is actually an opportunity to highlight that, rather than saying, well, your private tutor's wrong and we're right. It's and there may be people that do react like that, but not myself.
Okay, so can you use some words to describe a teacher and a tutor? What do you think of their identities?
Well, I suppose when I think of a teacher, they are a member of an institution, a school. They're less of an individual, although they should have some of their own personality to bring into the lessons. They're more a representative of the school as a whole and acting as part of a team, whereas a tutor, I would say, would tend to be more of an individual personality and will have their own philosophy to impart on the students, maybe.
So how do you describe a tutoring center and a school?
In what way?
Like curriculum, teaching materials, the sequence of teaching.
Well, I think I suppose a tutorial center would be the more unpredictable. With a school, they're quite standardized. I think most schools in Hong Kong will follow a similar pattern, with some outliers, but tutorial centers, I think they vary wildly from some that will be very good to some not so good, and I think it's much more important for the parents to research when they're looking at sending their child to a tutor. They should probably do more research into the center, because the school, I think, is more reliable in what they will be teaching.
Can we just walk and answer the last question?
Oh, sure.
There's one. So the last question is, do you prefer to be a teacher or a tutor? Why?
So far, I've preferred being a teacher because I feel being part of a team, it's a nicer environment. Usually the students have a better relationship with the teachers than they do with the tutors. Being a tutor, it can feel a bit like the students often really don't want to be there after a full day of school, and it can feel more commercial to be a tutor. Like it's just a business, where the school feels more like a family. When the students and their teachers have a good relationship, it is a much nicer environment for everybody, I think.
Okay, thank you so much.